How's it going, everyone? This is Joseph with Flooring Takeoffs, and we're back with another Takeoff Tuesday. And this week, we're going to look at backsplashes in Measure Square. So there's really two ways that I normally do this. The way I used to do this, and I'll get to why I switched here in a second,
The suspense.
is you could come in here and just split this wall. And then you can see, so far now I have this isolated just to this part of the wall, and then 5 is the rest of the run. So here you can come in and add your stack, and you just right click, and that'll bring this up, and horizontal stack. And usually just say 210 is our typical, and whatever this height is going to be. And that's your splash there. And you could use a little trim piece on the side. And then so when you blow this up into 3D, you're going to see that. So you may be like, great, but what about the counter? Maybe I want to see the counter. Okay, we'll get to that in a sec.
But I want it now!
So while we're here on this one, though, I do want to point out something else. So I used the wall stack to split that. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Now, if you use the divider, which is also a way to do this, and you split that there, this works the same, but then watch when we try to apply our trim piece. It's not going to recognize this point here. It's going to run through that. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're going to pick up trim pieces, you're better off using the stacks whenever possible, because it will recognize that break in the wall. With the dividers, it will not. So just something to keep in mind. But then let's go into option number 2, and this is the one I use pretty much all the time now. They made an upgrade that I'll get to in just a second. So basically, you can go to your elevation tool, and we're just going to come and trace out our counter. And you can already see how it pops that out of the elevation. And then this is giving you your wall height right here. And you can set this is set in your system settings right here. So I just leave it as this. 210 is typical. If I have other jobs where it's a different height for whatever reason, I would come in here and change it for that job, because otherwise it's gonna default to 210. If they're different, you're coming over here to manually change it every time. So on a job by job basis, if you notice something that you're constantly changing, change it in the settings for that job, and then you can change it back to whatever your normal default is. But it's just a little trick to save you some work. So on this one, what I would do is come out here and just use divider again to draw this out, and let's just say it's 2 foot, and apply there, and our trim piece. And again, we're gonna go back to 3D. Here, let's just get that, isolate that room. There we go. So, and this may just be something better to give to a client or somebody else that's reviewing the job that doesn't use Measure Square, or maybe it's not as familiar with it. This is probably a little bit easier to check. It may stand out a little bit more on a review than otherwise if you're just looking at it. Let's go back to this one. Just on a wall like that, maybe that's hard to recognize, and they're like, well, what is that there for? So that's another option. And this is what I use most of the time now. There's an option over here. You can see over here is checked. It says deduct ground. That just means it's going to not cover the ground underneath the millwork. So if you uncheck that, it's going to run through. But on the 3D view, it's still going to show, did it again, 3D view, it's still going to show just the top. So that's pretty handy. Honestly, I use that pretty much all the time now since they added these options over here. So I know that's very quick. There's really not a whole lot to it. Even on this, I'll just show one other. On the divider, it's really good for stuff if you have, say a little bump. You can draw that out also. And Let's go over here. So something like that. It's really good for drawing something that's kind of atypical. Other than that, I try to use the stacks as much as possible. When you're kind of open-ended over here, it's not as big a deal if you're doing something like this. It's gonna follow it, but kind of like how we showed. Which one?
There were only two options.
Kind of like we showed on this one. If you're splitting that wall and trying to do it, then you're gonna run into that issue of picking up too much trim on your outside corners. So there we go. Backsplashes and measure square. Please let me know if you have any questions, any suggestions for future videos. Always open to feedback for that. And I appreciate you watching. See you next time.